Welcome to the Westside Economic Alliance and NAIOP presentation on commercial real estate update. We're really pleased that you are here to join us. Thank you to all of the attendees. I want to first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Pam Trace. I'm the Executive Director of Westside Economic Alliance, and we are co-sponsoring this with NAIOP, and you also see on the screen Kelly Ross, who's the Executive Director of NAIOP. I'm going to introduce Kelly a little bit more later on. At this time, what I'd like to do is welcome all of the Westside Economic Alliance board members that are with us this morning. And with that, we've got a screen up that shows all of the board members that are in attendance this morning. I want to thank you all for the work that you do for our organization. You do a great job, and we really appreciate your engagement. At this point, I'd also like to recognize those of you that are elected that are with us this morning. Thank you very much. We have several people with us, and I want to thank you for all of the work that you do for our community. I know it's especially hard right now, and you're really working hard, and I appreciate everything that you do to make our community livable, to make it someplace that's safe and secure and where others want to be. So thank you very much to our electeds. I'd also like to thank our breakfast series sponsor this morning, and that is Legacy. Legacy has been a breakfast series sponsor for a long time. We call it breakfast series still, even though I don't see all your faces, but I know I'm still having my coffee, so we'll keep calling it breakfast series. With that, I'd like to remind you from Legacy that as we reach the end of October, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So Legacy wants to remind you that early detection is the key to surviving breast cancer. Women that are aged 40 and older should have a yearly mammogram, because if breast cancer is found early, there are more treatment options and a better chance for survival. Please don't procrastinate in making an appointment. Make it today for your annual screening. So for more information and to schedule your mammogram, please contact the Legacy Breast Center. I'd also like to remind you on behalf of Legacy to get your flu shots. It's really important. It's that time of year. So with that, I would like to recognize the sponsors for this morning's event. We have quite a few sponsors, and I want to give a shout out before I list everybody, because when I'm requesting sponsorship, I usually send an email or make a contact. And this time there were quite a few that I contacted for sponsorship, and every single person said yes. So thank you to the organizations. They're on your program that you received in the email, but they are CBRE, Gantry, PacTrust, Harsh Investment Properties, Felton Properties, Melvin Mark, and the Standard. So thank you very much for your sponsorship and allowing us to bring this to our audience this morning. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kelly Ross. Kelly and I have worked together for many years and in many ways. There are several things I'd like you to know about Kelly. He owns and operates an organization called Western Advocates. It's an association management company as well as an advocacy company. Kelly has been in this business for a very long time. He has been the executive director for NAIOP for 14 years, going on 15. But a little known fact about Kelly is that he still holds the record as the youngest county commissioner ever elected, and he served in Curry County. So Kelly, thank you for your community service. Thank you for the work that you do for us. And thank you for your partnership with Westside Economic Alliance. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Kelly. He's going to tell you a few things about NAIOP, and Kelly's going to be acting as our moderator today.
Thank you, Pam, and good morning to everyone. Really appreciate being able to partner with Westside Economic Alliance For this program, we have a lot of common ground on issues that we work on, and members too, members of both WEA and NAIOP. A little bit about NAIOP. NAIOP, the Oregon chapter, is part of a network of similar chapters around the country and in Mexico and Canada, made up of owners, developers, property managers, and all the service industries that help them function. NAIOP is very active in both in Washington, D.C. and in the Oregon State Capitol, and in city halls and county courthouses around the region in terms of advocating for the interests of commercial real estate. And I'm pleased to see that there are some candidates, good candidates in the crowd today that we are supporting, and hope we'll get over the finish line next Tuesday. So I will soon be introducing our panelists. And before I do that, I want to draw your attention to the program you should have received that has detailed biographical information about everyone. We will start off with Eric and Evan having about 7 to 10 minutes to kind of give their overview of where commercial real estate stands today, maybe where it's going in the future. And I would encourage you to pose questions to the speakers through the Q&A function on the Zoom screen.
Kelly, if I could interrupt just for one moment, I want the audience to know that we just received a call from Susan Glenn. She's on your program as being a participant, and she had to decline at the very last minute, and she sends her apologies. So with that, we've got Eric and Evan, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that Susan did send her apologies. Excuse me, Kelly.
Yeah, and I was really looking forward to hearing about her curling league that she's a member of. But I'll have to touch base with her on that later. Before moving on, though, I do want to recognize 3 of NAIOP's board members that are in the meeting today. Jennifer Cornelis from Perlo Construction, and I understand Pam and staff have sent out a link to NAIOP's virtual bus tour to everyone, and Jennifer played a huge role in that and was one of the co-chairs of that event, and I think it's been very successful. Jerry Mildner is also on the board, Jerry from a professor at PSU, and Patty Ryan at Gantry. Appreciate their service. And in addition to Evan, who's an officer with chapter this year and will be president in 2022. With that, I will go right into our introductions. Evan Bernstein is a partner and director of leasing and acquisition for Pacific Northwest Properties, which is based in Beaverton. Pacific Northwest Properties was founded in 1990 and owns and manages nearly 4 million square feet of industrial buildings, office parks, and suburban office assets. Evan has a very colorful career history, and if there's time, maybe he can touch on his time as a morning DJ and his interview with Beyonce, where he proposed marriage to her. Our next speaker.
He said no, by the way. He said no.
Good. Is Eric Sporre. Eric is celebrating his 20th year with PacTrust. PacTrust began in the mid-70s and now owns 13.5 million square feet of office, flex, and industrial properties, along with over 200 acres of undeveloped land. Eric is a former president of NAIOP, Oregon, and in fact, I think we've had more presidents come through PacTrust than any other company in the region. So thank you, Eric. Eric is a frequent participant in NAIOP events as an MC, and has quite a reputation for his cutting wit in dealing with panelists. So maybe that will come out today. So with all this being said, this is indeed a, I don't know even what to call this time for commercial real estate. There's been the closest comparison I can think of is back in 1929 when the Great Depression hit. But this is what we're seeing today is far beyond what the last deep recession in 2008, and it's going to be interesting to hear the observations of these two gentlemen. So with that, we'll kick it right off with Eric to give your perspective on the state of the market.
Hey, thanks, Kelly and Pam. This is obviously in my 30 years in the business. This is just it's surreal what's going on. We started in February. We were at 96% lease. This is overall. We're calling it a third in office, industrial, and retail. And then we have some apartments. We have some other holdings too, but for purposes of this and the quick numbers I'll talk about, we're 96% leased. What we call our economic occupancy was 91%, and that is free rent taken out. That's people who have signed a lease, but it hasn't started yet, and so there's a little bit of a lag there. In September, we dropped we just dropped 1% in terms of our leased occupancy, but we've dropped to 88% in economic occupancy, and that number was down at 85%, kind of in the middle of it. Last year, in both of those time periods, we were at 97% leased and 95% on economic occupancy. So I think that the market was cooling anyway prior to all this hitting. And I think that really what has happened, to paint a broad brush around it, there's really an acceleration of things that were already occurring. It's really dependent which of those product types you're in. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. Industrial is still very in some spots we're getting still record lease rates, but we're certainly not cocky about it. We're doing every deal we can. Office has been very, very slow. We've yet to see. We've heard rumors of everyone leaving downtown and coming to the suburbs, but have yet to really see much in the way of that. There's a couple here or there. Retail has been horrible. I think somebody made the comment that retailers never want to waste a good crisis, and they've been difficult to deal with, and in some cases very, very understandably. In others, just people trying to take advantage of the situation. We started kind of the initial stage of this, if you will, was really spending all day, every day working with tenants. We have just probably, I don't know, I would guess 3,000 tenants. And we were spending all day dealing with phone calls, those who needed help, those who didn't need help, those that just were scared and wondering what we were going to do to fix it, kind of thing. And I think we were in a bit of a panic mode ourselves. We dropped out of a 28-acre land purchase that we walked away from earnest money on it, which we don't walk away from money too often, if ever. I think then this summer things kind of cooled down to where you weren't feeling like you were in a fist fight every day, and that you were actually working on real estate again. And I think now we are back into a growth phase where we're early in the stages. We were going to, save money one magazine subscription at a time. We're now in a situation where we're making new investments. We closed on about 19 acres in Vancouver that'll be industrial. We are looking to build two single-story flex office buildings also in Vancouver at Columbia Tech Center. We've got the land that we dropped out of. We're going back under contract to buy that, and we've got several other things kind of in the works right now. So I do think that there's more pain to follow here. I think that we're going to have some people that are going to come back and need help. We've already had people coming back that need some help, and we will, as always, work with them on a case-by-case basis. One of the things that we're seeing quite a bit right now is just people that there's an uncertainty to their decision making. So you're getting where we maybe did a handful of one-year deals in the last 5 years. We're now kind of kicking the can down the road on a number of those. With that, Evan, I'll turn it over to you. I'm not sure if I went over my allotted time, but I wanted to save you some extra time.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So it's interesting here at Pacific Northwest Properties. I'm constantly reminded that in our 30-year history, the best leasing broker ever to work with Pacific is that man right there, Eric Sporre. So you've had a successful year on the principal side, but if you ever want to come back and be a leasing manager here, there's a job waiting for you, Eric. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you to the Westside Economic Alliance and, of course, to NAIOP for this honor. Last night, Casey with Westside sent around a list of all participants today, and it's a pretty cool list. So there's a lot. I think there's a couple hundred people watching this right now, and of course, it's going to be recorded, so others will watch it afterwards. So I got a little bit nervous, to tell you the truth. So hopefully we do okay today. But it's an honor, and what a tough time right now, and what a heavy time. I'm gonna speak for a few minutes right now, and then we'll save a lot of time for questions and answers as well. But for those of you who don't know Pacific Northwest Properties, we're a family-owned commercial real estate investment, development, and property management company. As Kelly mentioned, we're based in Beaverton. We've been around since 1990, and we've kind of quietly grown to be, one of the largest business park operators in Portland. We've got assets on all, 4 corners of the city, and a heavy set of projects on the west side. We love the west side, Hillsborough and Tualatin, Beaverton, Wilsonville, and others. We also have assets in Clackamas and Milwaukee, Vancouver, Salem, and then elsewhere nationally on a much smaller scale. But my role at Pacific Northwest Properties is I'm a partner, and I'm the director of leasing and acquisitions. I do site selection and development planning, marketing, and during the pandemic, my role really shifted from sort of the leading the offensive side of the business to being a psychologist, a motivational speaker, the collections department, sometimes a punching bag. It's a really chaotic, heavy time, and sometimes as a landlord, you kind of take you take the beating for that just because it's so tough right now. A crazy year, obviously. Unprecedented challenges, COVID-19 and everything associated with that. You forget, right? We had the forest fires, the awful forest fires, and related smoke, the civil unrest, the social injustice, out of control riots downtown, an election year with so much polarization and stress associated with that, and then all the other challenges that don't fit those boxes. We're all facing challenges, family drama, cabin fever, the inability to take a vacation, remote learning for those who have kids, being last place in fantasy football. So there's just a lot of, that's one of my challenges, but it's been tough. To sum up my year so far, I don't think I've ever worked so hard to lose so much money. There's been lots of ups and downs. It's really difficult to project market conditions and trends. You know, sometimes it looks good, sometimes it's bad. Stock market up, stock market down. We have a week where we sign a whole bunch of new leases, and then we have another week where several tenants go bankrupt. So, you know, really kind of tough to gauge. You know, I would just look at this and say, I'm grateful, and we're all grateful. Everybody watching this today, and of course the panelists, we're lucky, we're employed, we're staying healthy, thank God. We've got a roof over our heads, and we live in a wonderful region, Oregon and the Portland metro area. It's all about resiliency. People are scrappy, and they're going to scratch and claw and figure out a way to overcome these challenges. So that's been one of the most inspirational pieces for me to witness that from our tenants and our service providers, broker partners, employees, title companies, elected officials, lawyers, architects, contractors. So it's been really, really cool. I think for today, I'm going to address a couple of things. I'm going to address the sort of the state of the Portland metro commercial real estate market. And I'll try not to echo too many things that Eric talked about to give it a little bit of difference. I want to talk about how small businesses, you know, and other commercial tenants are generally feeling, and what their challenges are and what their outlook is. And then I think it'd be beneficial to touch on what we as Pacific Northwest Properties, you know, are doing to navigate these choppy waters, and what you can do as a participant today to help out in the cause, because we truly are in it together, and we're going to get through it. So the bulk of our portfolio, which is now comprised of, you know, about 3.6 million square feet. We've got about 100 buildings in the Portland metro area and about 500 wonderful tenants who lease space from us. You know, so I'm going to start with office, but 95% of what we do is light industrial business park. So there's a warehouse component, and we may have a manufacturer in that business park, a distribution company, service retail, high tech, you know, a destination, a recreational athletic type use, a CrossFit or gymnastics, something like that. So we don't have any assets in downtown Portland in terms of office buildings, but we're very fortunate that we don't right now, just because, you know, office is dead right now in PDX. I think 10% of people are going to work. And obviously there's not a lot of new deals happening. Renewals are pretty bleak. And in the office front, in the suburbs, where we have properties, you know, in the Tiger Triangle and 217 corridor, obviously there's Cruise Way and the Sunset corridor as well. You know, office is pretty slow, as Eric mentioned. There are a few new deals. Renewals are happening, lease renewals, where there's just a lot of uncertainty. So if I'm a tenant, I want the shortest term possible for ultimate flexibility, which is tough for a landlord, to tell the truth. We want longer terms, especially if there's capital being put into a tenant improvement. It just takes a lot of time to negotiate these leases. And so a lot of tenants right now are seeking shorter term options just because there's so much uncertainty. And you know, a lot of landlords, including us, have to sort of oblige to that, you know, taking in all factors. On the industrial front, and you know, industrial could be a distribution center, a warehouse, a business park with an office and warehouse component. You know, things really remain sort of unchanged from a metric standpoint. Vacancy still very, very low. If you look 12 months ago, the Portland metro area was experiencing record high occupancy, low vacancy, record high rental rates. Sale comps were at an all-time, you know, high with you know, just big purchase prices and you know, low cap rates. And really that remains unchanged. You know, we have a few more vacancies, and I haven't you know, studied, to tell you the truth, the recent vacancy numbers, but I don't think they've shifted much more than a point or two. So you know, vacancy remains really, really light. And so, you know, market conditions are affected because of that. So it's not, you know, there's headlines. Someone might look at something that's happening downtown Portland, and you know, a tenant or a tenant rep broker might smell blood in the water. Ooh, this is a great time to get a great deal. But to tell you the truth, it's pretty tight out there. There's not a lot of availability. There's been 2 sale comps, which are interesting. These are industrial dispositions institutional grade buyers. One was a big boy out at Troutdale, and one was at the Portland airport. And those both traded and they sold, in the middle of the summertime. So in the middle of COVID, and they were at record high values and record low cap rates. So it's, for the most part, the industrial market has remained strong. I'll get into a little bit of the trenches a little bit more to that, because there's a bit of a caveat in that strength, and that's really on the emotional side and kind of what's to come, as Eric alluded to, because we're all kind of thinking about sort of these next quarters and these next years. How are tenants feeling? It's really interesting. I would probably equate this on the tenant side, but also with brokers and with contractors and with architects. It's really a dichotomy of people who are doing really, really well and people who are struggling. It's kind of the difference between the haves and the have-nots. I talked to a broker a couple of weeks ago. He's having a career year. He's having one of the best years ever, and he almost feels a little bit guilty about that, right? I talked to another broker, and she's struggling to pay her mortgage. So that's just they're in the same practice, they work on the same product type, and you've got someone who's thriving and someone who's struggling. One architect I know is so buried in projects, he's having a hard time hitting deadlines. Another architect who I golfed with last week just furloughed his whole staff. So an architect who's just going bonkers, and another architect who has to reduce his overhead by saying, hey guys, we can only work 4 days a week. One contractor is so busy right now, I can't even get a call back from them. You talk to another contractor who we just did a tenant improvement for us, so appreciative, and he says, Evan, please, please, please give me another one. I don't know where my next job's gonna be. So again, you see this difference, right, which is interesting. So some of our tenants in that respect are really thriving, and some are struggling. A lot of it is luck, to tell you the truth, but some of it is how people are embracing the challenges of the pandemic. So, we have a tenant who outfits RVs and recreational sprint vans. And as you know, a lot of people aren't flying right now. So sort of the camping and getting off the grid is pretty enticing. Those companies and those tenants are doing well. We have companies who distribute food to grocery stores. Maybe they manufacture product or ready-made meals, or we've got someone who makes hummus, and you can find that hummus at a New Seasons or a Safeway or a Whole Foods, and more people are eating at home, and they're doing really, really well. We have a company who manufactures and distributes electronics and inexpensive laptops. Well, look at remote learning and how many people are watching this Zoom panel today from a laptop. They're kicking butt. They're on fire. Conversely, we have a tenant who manufactures exhibits for trade shows. As much as Eric and I and Kelly and Pam and the whole group want to go to Vegas right now and go to a conference, an exhibit, a trade show, but we really want an excuse to go travel. That's not happening. Those guys are in trouble. That exhibit company sent us a letter with 4 sets of keys saying, I'm so sorry, we have to give the keys back. Meanwhile, our company lost $1 million in contracted future rent. So that's one example, and that's happening all over the place. Another one of our tenants arranges group travel for students. Do you think any students are traveling? We get the call saying our revenue in 2020 is 0. It's zilch. It's a goose egg. So it's really, really difficult. Like Eric, at the beginning of the pandemic, Pacific Northwest Properties, we made a commitment. We're going to help every single one of our tenants. We can't financially help every one of our tenants. We're just not a deep-pocketed bank, but we certainly, we arrange, rent deferral, rent relief programs for probably about 20% of our portfolio. The people who were organized and approached us at the beginning, much like the government with the stimulus funds, were a little bit more successful. Also, those who had a real story to tell. I mean, we certainly got rent relief requests or demands from big, huge, multi-billion-dollar conglomerates who just write a generic letter and, we love you and we're here to help, but we can't financially help you. But even if we weren't able to financially help our tenants, we listen to them. I talked earlier about sort of being a psychologist or a motivational speaker or just an ear to listen to. We arranged stimulus information and bank relationships for PPP with some of those tenants. So we feel really good about that. I'm proud of Pacific Northwest Properties, proud of the team. We work really, really hard overtime around the clock to help our tenants and to help all of our customers. But it's been pretty tough. It kind of vacillates. I mentioned earlier, some weeks are good, some weeks are bad. Intuitively, you kind of worry as we head into the remaining of a fourth quarter as the days get shorter. It's a little darker on my way into work this morning. We've had awesome weather for the most part outside of the fires, but once the rain and the cold starts happening, what's that going to do psychologically to all of us? Obviously, what does that mean for COVID and the germs and unfortunate maybe second phases of it? So it's really tough. I think we're cautiously optimistic about the future, and we don't feel like we're bulletproof, but we're also forward thinkers. And I think the companies who are forward thinking right now are gonna do well. I talked to a broker yesterday who mentioned that, sort of unrelated, but I thought it was an interesting anecdote. Amazon just signed leases in Bellevue, Washington, 2 new leases that occurred in the middle of COVID. So these weren't in the planning stages. So they're going to be building 2 million square foot towers in Bellevue. That's 2 million new square feet for Amazon. And what's interesting about that is, I read an article saying the South Lake Union in Seattle, all the restaurants and bars and fitness operations who were supporting the 2 million or 3 million square foot Amazon footprint in Seattle are all struggling because the employees aren't coming to work anymore. And then Amazon goes and builds 2 million more square feet in Bellevue. And that's really forward thinking. Jeff Bezos isn't worried about the next month or first quarter 2021. He's thinking about the next year and the next year after that and 10 years down the road. And I think some of our tenants who are forward thinking right now are doing well. Like Eric and PacTrust, we, thought about putting the pause on some of our speculative developments. If you think about it, we go buy a piece of land with 0 commitments. We design a project and we build it. It's like Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. And that's pretty scary when you're seeing headlines and you're getting calls from tenants who are struggling and we're giving rent relief and we're losing money. But, we're going to be in it for the long haul. We build our projects to own. The pandemic's not going to be forever. And so we're just trying to pivot and count our blessings and make smart moves. And, some of the tenants it's too much for them. They are panicking. They're in the corner in the fetal position and they don't know what to do. And so, I see industries who there's no reason they should be folding, and they are. And that's just maybe an operator who has never faced a challenge or is stuck in their old ways of doing things. And I see other companies who are saying, you know what, we've got obstacles in front of us. How are we going to navigate this? And how are we going to, persevere on the other end? And those are the ones that are the most inspiring to me. And those those get me up earlier in the morning and help inspire me and our team to challenge ourselves to continue to be open-minded and to be able to adapt and to realize that, stuff happens. This is crazy. This isn't the financial crisis of 08, 9, 10 and everything that happened after that. This is completely different when you have governor's orders shutting things down and you have businesses I mentioned earlier who are sort of unlucky, a retail or can you imagine, hotel operators and things like that, what that means? I mean, there's no way to overcome some of those challenges. So, for the most part in our world, industrial, you can't work remotely. You can't drive a forklift remotely. You can't stack pallets, on a Zoom call. These folks are reliant on their facilities, and for the most part, they're going to figure out a way to survive. They have to. So overall, optimistic, really blessed, inspired, and I want to encourage all of you to count your blessings. And it's easy to feel sorry for ourselves. It's not ideal. But we're going to be okay. Portland's an amazing place, and there's some fighters. There's some fighters right now on this list that I'm looking at right now. So keep your head up and appreciate the opportunity. I hope I saved a little bit for some Q&As. So Kelly, I'll throw it back to you.
Okay, definitely. We have 3 questions that have been posed. First from Jeffrey Petrillo, and he asks, are either of you seeing appraisers making upward adjustments in cap rates related to COVID? And if so, how much of an increase in cap rates? And maybe one of you could lead off with filling some background in on what cap rates are for those in the audience that don't deal with such matters.
Eric, go ahead, please.
Okay. We haven't seen any movement in appraisals. First of all, the cap rate is short for capitalization rate, and it is basically what return you're willing to take on a purchase. So you would take your net rents and take typically a 5% deduction to that for vacancy, credit risk, etc., and then divide that by the cap rate, which have actually been shrinking still. They tend to follow 10-year money. They don't tend to follow it; they do, and that will give you the price. But no, we have not seen much in the way of that. We continue to see the out of town buyers, and not just the out of town buyers, but the out of town developers coming in, particularly on the industrial side. You'll note the things that I mentioned earlier that we're working on are kind of outside of the Portland area now. The pricing here, even on land pricing is just skyrocketed as we get to kind of the final pieces within the urban growth boundary that will work. So we still have pressure on pricing. It'll be interesting to see what happens. There's a couple of cruiseway office buildings that offers just came in on within the last couple of weeks. It'll be interesting to see what that pricing looks like for office assets.
Any thoughts, Evan?
Nothing to add specifically relating to the appraisal. It's interesting because I mentioned some of the record high sale prices and low cap rates that occurred here summer of 2020. It doesn't feel like there's as many transactions. I don't know if just too many things were gobbled up in the last couple of years. It's been a really active year. I know for our company, 2019 was the most active acquisition year for Pacific Northwest Properties. And I don't know, when you kind of eat a little bit too much, you get full and you get indigestion and you want to sort of digest. So, a bit of a slowdown for us and others may be appropriate, but we haven't seen all of a sudden big shifts that make us wonder. So industrial has been sort of the darling of the market, and we expect it to continue to be that way. It'll be interesting, these two cruiseway office assets that Eric mentioned being sold by Shorenstein. Those could provide kind of the first two office sale comps in our marketplace that actually make a little bit of sense. But obviously downtown has been really active. A lot of institutional buyers have purchased towers. In talking to folks, there's absolutely zero interest in buying office assets in Portland, Oregon right now. You got to keep in mind, a lot of these buyers are from the South or they're from other regions. And the headlines alone every single night and the news alone kind of scare them from Portland, Oregon. So it's just a disaster, to tell you the truth, downtown, and we'll see what happens.
I heard a comment that somebody said, why would I come to Portland to get big city problems? Portland's a big town. If I want big city problems, I'll go to the big city.
Okay, another question from Mike Thomas. Assuming a vaccine is readily available in the first quarter of next year, do you have any idea how long it would take the real estate economy to recover?
I'll take this. First of all, Mike Thomas is one of the finest men in Portland. He's one of the greatest guys I've ever met. So hi, Mike. Thanks for the question. Appreciate you. You're the best. It's interesting. I'm not a scientist, and neither is Eric. If Susan could have joined us, she's pretty smart. Maybe she would be able to answer this. But I think a lot of it has to do with confidence. Is a vaccine going to be the answer? We don't know. Who knows? I don't know. You don't know. Is it going to solve everything? How readily available is it? But it's more of like a confidence thing. I don't think confidence has gone down in general from a lot of people. I think caution has just gone up, if that makes sense. So if I'm a business, if I'm a small business and I have an opportunity, we've seen small businesses right now, even though it may not be the right timing, all of a sudden one of those rare vacancies pops open and this is their opportunity to go grab it. Even though it's scary, it may not be the right time. It's never quite the right time to make a bold move. So yeah, I think a vaccine would help. For Mike's question specifically on hospitality and retail, I don't think it's going to affect industrial at all, and maybe office a little bit. I mean, a lot of office folks are working remotely. We've got big 50,000 square foot call center tenants who there's 5 cars in the parking lot, so they're all working remotely. I'm not sure the sustainability of that from a productivity standpoint, but certainly a vaccine would help in that respect. I don't know if it's all of a sudden going to change the metrics on purchase and sales, but I think it would help on a confidence level.
I agree. I agree on the confidence level. I think that it's until it's not hitting people that until you don't have a personal story on it, there's going to be problems. I would also say on the call it the recovery, if there's no penalty for not making a decision, the decisions aren't going to be made right now. And if you've got the opportunity to push it out, and if I miss on this space, I'll get the next one. That where we've always seen growth in rent, and really explosive growth in rent, is when somebody misses out on a space and then they don't have another opportunity. The old fear and greed comment.
Okay. Troy Gagliano from PGE has asked the question, you mentioned you're not seeing companies moving employees out of downtown Portland in large numbers yet. What does your crystal ball tell you about how long recent circumstances have to continue before companies do begin doing what Standard Insurance has and moving out of the downtown area?
What's interesting on this is a lot of these companies are tied up with leases. So if you have 4 years left in your lease or 5 years left in your lease, you don't have an option to move out unless you're going to take a financial hit or pay double rent, or you're able to sublease your space. So, as much as I think a lot of downtown companies would love to go to the burbs, they're just prohibited from doing so. Now, those companies that do have leases that are coming up, we don't have a barometer to be able to tell you that 10% of downtown companies are coming to the suburbs, but I think intuitively, the suburbs are going to get stronger on the office front. I mean, they have to be. It's already been kind of an interesting case. The last 10 years in downtown Portland, downtown's been hot. You want to be downtown. People are down there. You walk to get a cup of coffee and you run into someone, right? It's there's transportation, there's food cars. It's cool. It's hip. It's also expensive. Some downtown office buildings are double the price of suburban office. The Multnomah County tax versus Washington County tax is significant. We did an analysis. We had a 25,000 square foot office vacancy in Tigard, and we did an analysis with free parking versus $200 a stall, and then we did a tax comparison with a particular company for Multnomah versus Washington, and the savings was like $400,000 a year if you go to Tigard versus being downtown, let alone, that doesn't even factor in the rental rates at maybe $45 or $50 a square foot per year downtown, and maybe they're $28 or $30 or $25 or $33, on Cruise Way, for instance. So you combine the cost with the sort of the inconvenience now, hard to find parking, the homelessness issue. Now you got riots, then you got the COVID stuff, right? Like if I have to go jump on an elevator to get to the 30th floor, and I'm waiting 40 minutes to get to my floor because there's only 2 people out in the elevator. What does that do to productivity and efficiency? So there's been a couple of brokerage houses who have moved from downtown to the burbs. So we've seen that a little bit. And I think as leases roll and tenants are forced to make a decision, I think the burbs are where it's going to be. You know, you got light rail expanding, you got favorable taxes, and what we need to all the planning people on this call today, what we need is to be the alternative to the city of Portland. People get so frustrated with Portland trying to get a permit and the time it takes and the red tape and the number of steps. And what's been so pleasant about the Hillsboroughs and the Tualetons and the Tigers and the Wilsonvilles, it's been much easier and much faster. Well, you got a pandemic and you've got people working from home and you've got stacks of permits, this tall, and all of a sudden now, Tiger doesn't have a competitive advantage over downtown Portland. So we need to figure out a way to not get coupled with the reputation that Portland has built upon themselves of being just really, really tough to work with. So that's my recommendation to those here watching today. I know it's difficult. I know remote work causes challenges, but we have to figure out a way to get it done.
Thank you. Eric, any thoughts?
I would just say simplistically that where do your employees want to be? And that's where I think there are definitely reasons that people are going to want to be out to the suburbs. Haven't hit on most of them, but I would also say where people live, how get people now who are used to at least working part-time from home. I think you'll continue to have a remote work. I don't think the office is going away by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think it'll change, and I think people will want to be closer to where their office is, and not necessarily what was hip and cool. And I think downtown retail right now is what's suffering the most. And you look at some of the things, Portland's really known for coffee shops, pubs, restaurants, and all those are kind of small get together kind of collision type spots, and which is the exact opposite of what anybody's supposed to be doing right now.
Okay. I have a question from Jerry Mildner from PSU. How are landlords helping tenants make their lease spaces more socially distanced? Who's paying for those improvements? And provide any examples you might have.
Well, I think someone teased the NAIOP bus tour, and you can still go register and go check it out. But Eric, that was actually a great transition into you, because some of your teammates actually highlighted some of the features of a few of your vacancies as it relates to COVID. So I'd love for you to take this one.
What we've done, we teamed with McKinsey to come up with some no-touch type of deals, and then also some social distancing in some vacancies we have. One of them, frankly, is the longest-running vacancy we have, 20,000 feet, and Tiger, good exposure, and would make a deal. Anybody wants to move out to Tiger on that. But we've got several. Fortunately, we came into this in pretty good shape with not a lot in the way of vacancies. So what we have focused on a couple of key larger vacancies is how do we use a blank palette here palette's the wrong word, it's too early for me. But how do we use this blank landscape to come up with a plan that will work for people through our architects, through other ideas? In terms of existing spaces, we haven't done much in terms of changing things up. Tenants. Part of that is we don't have a lot of our office tenants back in the space yet. I think we're the floor that I'm on in this building. We're the only group in it, and we've we've got 60 people. I would guess there's a dozen to 15 that are in any day. We've started to see some people back in other offices. I will say that the per square foot per employee is moving up. You've got people that are talking about private offices. We've got a couple of renewals that we're talking with groups right now. They don't want open space. They want some private offices. So I think that may be good news, but I also don't think, I think time will tell. I think that may be good news in terms of the amount of square footage people take versus what they would have jammed into earlier.
Okay. We have a question from Mayor Tim Knapp from Wilsonville. And he asks, what demand, leasing, and pricing effects are you seeing on Class C properties and on suburban markets in contrast to Class A and downtown? Are sales prices showing continued strength as in 2019 on acreage in the fringe areas?
Well, Mayor, thanks for the question. Pacific Northwest Properties is proud to have invested in Wilsonville for the last 30 years, and we've developed there and we've acquired there, and we want to do more. It's interesting. I think leasing demand in Wilsonville remains strong. Of all of our assets, fortunately, knock on wood, we remain 100% full. Those are all multi-tenant light industrial business parks. I can't really speak to the specifics on Class C versus Class A and if there's big value differences. I mean, there's not a ton of Class C space in Wilsonville, I don't think. And certainly, if you look at PacTrust portfolio and Pacific Northwest Properties portfolio, I think, we both built reputations for building and operating, top-notch facilities. So I think demand in Wilsonville remains strong. It's a great place to do business. It's competitive. It's business friendly. So I expect good things for Wilsonville moving forward.
Yeah, I think our light industrial, we see the continued demand. Even you use the word fringe, but we have continued demand. Our project that we have in Wilsonville has been basically full since it was built 15 years ago. And we continue that's a project that we continue to see increases in rent, which obviously means increase in value. And I think that if services are getting to the land that's available now, you'll see continued growth there.
Okay. Question from Rich Foley about the governor's order and legislation on commercial eviction moratorium. He asks what impact you're seeing on the industry, if any, and what percentage of your tenants are taking advantage of rent and payment deferrals. We
have not had too many issues, fortunately, just a small handful. And there's a couple of people who have definitely taken advantage of the situation. We, for the most part, communication is the key on this. We've tenants that are coming to us that have had real issues. Evan mentioned a exhibit company. We've got one too, and they just don't have any business. Their business is the business of bringing people together. We've got a group that does event tents, and a lot of that's for Oregon and Oregon State for college football. And those they don't have the business right now. So what we have done, there's no one size fits all, but we have done for the most part rent deferrals, and then given people a bit of time to kind of get back on their feet and then do a fairly quick payback on that without any interest involved, and that has worked. We've had a couple of people I mentioned earlier that have needed a little bit of additional help. I don't think anybody thought that this was going to last this period of time. That's been, I think that's been the worst of it, and that's also, Evan made a comment earlier about confidence. I think if there was going to be if there was another shutdown, I think that would just be devastating, just to the mindset. I don't think anybody's mind is right right now. It's a very very difficult time, and so I guess that's it.
So if I could jump in here just for a minute on that question from Rich Foley about HB 4204. We had asked Susan Glenn was actually going to be addressing that for us. And I'm thinking that what we can do is put together a little bit of a white paper on kind of the legislative things that are going on, including HB 4204, and post it on our website as part of this. So, and Evan, you may have more to add, but I'd like to be able to ensure that we get some information out on these legislative issues to the attendees here and to our membership. The other piece is that we will be discussing this in our Government Relations Committee meeting as well. So you'll be seeing more information on legislative issues in relationship to commercial real estate.
Evan, did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I think we covered it. Thanks.
And it occurred to me, Eric, while you were speaking, did you require any kind of documentation from tenants who wanted relief to demonstrate the economic hardship they're having?
Yes, absolutely. We requested financials from anybody who asked. We had one group that sent financials that showed they were doing dramatically better, but still thought they should have rent relief, and that their financials were irrelevant. So yes, we had a number of, and we had groups when once we asked for financials, they just didn't, all of a sudden didn't need anything. And then, then you've got the people who, well, I heard from my uncle that he's getting 25% rent reduction. He didn't have to do anything for it. There's a lot of that. There was a lot of that going on in the early stages. That's gone. Now we helped those that demonstrated that they needed help, and and then we had also situations where maybe a renewal was coming up, and instead of putting a TI in, maybe we abate some rent on that on those kind of deals. So it's again, no one size fits all, but yes, for sure, we requested financials. The interesting ones were, well, we don't share our financials. Well, yeah, your lease says that you do. That the worst we ever negotiate is that we just ask for them once a year. So there were some interesting characters in it.
Okay. But if you think about it too, that from a timing standpoint, a lot of these rent relief or renegotiation requests came 3 weeks into the pandemic. April 7th. So even if you look at financials, what's changed in 3 weeks? Yeah. So that part was really, really tough. Right now would be a more appropriate time to review financials, but it's interesting. A lot of people, you read an article, or you talk to a buddy, or you talk to the neighbor, and everybody's jumping on this bandwagon. So I may as well ask. And we never we never punish someone for asking, but it's not always warranted or justified from a financial standpoint. We'll always be there to listen and encourage you, but we don't get any relief as landlords on our mortgage. We still have payments, and we still have overhead and payroll, and I don't want to fire our staff. So unfortunately, if I could, I'd wave a magic wand and give everybody free rent forever. That'd be amazing, but I'm not Oprah.
I would not do that.
Question from Kevin Brady. Is it too early to start strategizing on the repurposing of existing office assets, that is to light industrial or housing?
I think it's too early to start making significant changes to the function of a office space. There's some architects who are joining us today, and I've talked to a lot of them, and they've got these really cool, crazy ideas. I just think it's a bit of a wait and see. If you think about it, if you're making a commitment and you're completely changing the behavior and the flow and things like that of an office, outside of maybe a couple more private offices or a little bit more space on a walking aisle, I just think it may come back to haunt you, just because, again, this isn't forever. I don't know if we'll ever go back to normal. I don't know what normal is anymore, but I think you don't want to make an extreme decision from an infrastructure standpoint. Our office right now, we've got tape on the floor and we've got sanitizing stations and we're wearing masks and things like that. Okay. But in terms of if we decide we're going to go start building a whole bunch of private offices, or we're going to completely renovate our furniture, I mean, it's expensive, and it's tough to do. And especially right now with so many companies working remotely, I don't know if we're quite there yet. It was interesting. One of our tenants went bankrupt. And so as part of their bankruptcy, we had to liquidate their furniture. And so I called a furniture liquidation company, and the nice guy says, "Hey, Evan, if you would have called me 3 months ago, I would have paid you to take this furniture away. But today you're paying me because it's not tall enough. These cubicles aren't tall enough," where we've been in a mode the last, couple of years where the cubicles are getting smaller. There's more collaboration. There's shared space, the WeWorks of the world, and the open address, where you don't even have your own desk. You kind of go to a bar stool shared table with your laptop. So I think the companies, there's going to be adjustments, right? We're doing a new move-in with a tenant. We're doing a tenant improvement, a big 30,000 square foot office space. And what they decided was they're going to go forego the gym they had planned in their space for now, so they can have a little bit more elbow room with their cubicles and their furniture. And then in a year or two or whenever it feels safe to come back to work, and maybe there is a vaccine or what have you, then they will go build their gym. So that's a smart move from that tenant, because they're not committing to changing everything forever, because it's not forever. We've done some fun stuff, at one of our suburban office buildings, because everybody's gyms closed or was closed early in the pandemic. We built an outdoor gym and a walking path around one of our assets. So that was kind of a fun amenity to add to our building. I think it adds long-term value, and it was kind of a way to adapt to challenges that we're all facing today. But to start making significant changes in your approach, I don't know if that's the best use of resources, and I'm not sure if that's going to pay off. I may be wrong, but that seems a little panicky to me.
What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think it's way too soon to be making any long-term decisions. I think that you need to see how everything plays out here. We are 18 months away from behind us where everyone was going downtown. No one wanted to be in the suburbs. So there's I think things change, evolve. It's the saying, I know there's a balance. I see it when I swing past. I think that I would say that on our flex stuff, as we get spaces back, there's less demand for the office portion and more demand for warehouse in it. So we're seeing less office there. So that is a bit of an indicator on office use as it relates, and the fact that there is more demand on the more industrial side of flex than there is on the office side of flex.
Okay. A question from our friend Bob Lefebvre. I've heard that homeless people are leaving downtown fearing for their safety. Have you noticed an increase in homeless populations around your properties?
We have not seen much in our properties yet. I have noticed it in where I live, which is in downtown Lake Oswego, where there's a bus stop there at the Safeway. It's where near where the Black Lives Matter deal happened last Sunday. I've noticed a big influx, and I heard somebody who was mentally challenged just in tears saying they were scared to be downtown. It was pretty eye-opening. So we have not seen it yet here, but I can imagine that happening.
How about with you, Evan?
We've seen a pickup of homelessness in the burbs around our projects, but I wouldn't say it's specifically related to fear of what's going on downtown. This pickup has been happening the last couple of years. So I can't tell you, why, but a lot of it is at the Portland airport, Airport Way. You kind of see it heading up north on I-5 as well, kind of near Swan Island and such. But I can't speak, Bob, to the specifics of fear. But overall, yeah, homelessness has continued to grow, and it's an issue, and it's terrible. It's so sad.
Yeah, my comments were made as it relates to the West Side. We do have huge issues out by the airport, and we've got the issues with the RVs and campers and vans that then you have to spend the money to get rid of. And I agree. I think homelessness is the biggest issue that we face as a community.
Okay. A question from Matthew Coleman. What high-level fundamental changes do you see happening to the different commercial real estate sectors your firm is invested in coming out on the other side of the pandemic?
Evan, I'm going to let you take that.
Thanks for the question. Kelly, would you mind repeating the question one more time?
What high-level fundamental changes do you see happening to the different commercial real estate sectors your company's invested in coming out of the pandemic?
Well, we're very fortunate that we're heavily invested in industrial product, and suburban office. Bob's a retail broker who asked the previous question, and that world's obviously been shaken up. It's not all bad. I've heard some neat stories about suburban retail shopping center leasing and things like that. But and certainly we're not involved with multifamily or hospitality as well. So, fundamentally, we're going to keep our heads down in the projects that we continue to invest in and manage and operate. We develop properties. We also have been very active on the acquisition front. So we're going to continue to look for good opportunities. We're going to continue to remain cautious, but not be afraid to be forward thinking based on my earlier example. Right now we're under construction on a speculative project in Salem, Oregon. We have another piece of land under contract. We'll hopefully build there. We've got a partition going on in Hillsborough. We've been very active, buying properties just north of Highway 26. If you're heading out to the beach, or you're going to Topgolf, or you're going to go visit Intel, or somewhere in between, there's a couple of projects out there with high-profile, eye-catching paint jobs. One's called 26 North, and one is called Corn Pass Annex, which they both have kind of cool paint jobs. And so we're going to continue to look for opportunities, and we're going to continue to be people centric and people focused. As Eric mentioned, our tenants are going through some stuff. We're all going through challenges. So we're going to continue to be in it for the long haul. Fundamentally, where it's easy to when a rent relief request comes in, or someone says, "Hey, by the way, I'd like to reduce the size of my space to lower my rent costs." It's easy to say, "Sorry, you got a contract and talk to me in a couple of years." But we're going to continue to try to work with our customers and right size them if there's an opportunity to shrink their size or to grow them or to help out, and we can structure a win-win-win situation. We're going to do it. But I think it's head down and a lot of optimism. It's a lot of uncertainty, but a lot of optimism. That's the only way we can do it.
I would say for us on the office side, I don't know. I don't know what it really is going to look like. You speculate across the board. It feels like our suburban stuff should be good. I would say, however, that we're going to need to amenitize all of our suburban stuff. I think we're going to have to give people the opportunity to have the pubs, the entertainment, all of those things that they're used to in their urban settings. So really maybe urbanize our stuff more and more. And we've started that. We've started a trail system here to connect all of our projects that are down here in Tigard, and where we have probably 3 million feet just right down here, and to connect all the way down to Bridgeport Village and make people feel safe riding bikes and walking. Say on the industrial side, it's gone from a just in time to a just in case, and I think that we will see. I think supply chain becomes more and more important on that. Retail, I don't do retail, so I can't speak to it too much, other than to say it's obviously there were changes that were coming, and those changes have kind of accelerated. So we're paying close attention to. We got our J.C. Penney's back, so we're okay now. Is there a grocer? Is there a food user? What can you do in those spaces? How do you repurpose those? And I don't think retail goes away though either. People still, the majorities are still buying or going to the store to buy things. I'm amazed though at the number of packages that show up at my house too.
A question from Pam Armstrong. You mentioned tenants wanting shorter leases, which makes it hard to recoup capital. How are you addressing that? Less tenant improvement dollars?
Yes. Yeah, I would say on the shorter term stuff has been more on renewals. I think if people are out looking, for the most part, they're willing to do kind of the proper terms. I would also say that in the past several years, things have changed where it used to be 3 to a 5 year lease. Now it's a 7 to a 10 year lease. So it's a pullback from a bigger number. But at the beginning of this, we were working with a group that was out in the market, and we weren't sure what was really going to happen, and kind of took the mentality of when you're falling off a cliff, grab for the first branch. They started at a 5 year deal, and then it's a 3, and now it's a 1. We did the deal, but now we're talking. Seems odd, but now we're talking about a renewal with them because the Space Works, they have some clarity as to what's going to happen going forward. So, but the short answer is yes. If we don't have to put capital in, we're going to get a deal done.
Kevin, anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say, outside of the recoup of capital, and thanks so much for that question, there's also financing implications as well. And there's also the return on investment of time. These renewals take a long time, and we're all busy. So there is a benefit of longer term leases as well. And Eric does a 1 year renewal, and 6 months into it, he's talking about another renewal. It just takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of paperwork, a lot of manpower, a lot of costs in that respect as well. And when you get to a size of both our outfits, it's a busy time. I mentioned earlier the rent relief programs. We probably put 100 lease amendments together in the first 60 days of the pandemic. Well, that takes a long time. There's a lot of paperwork there as well. So Tenants are going to continue to seek short-term deals on new deals and on renewals, and I don't blame them. And if we can oblige and we can accommodate, we will do so. But there are challenges as well. So,
okay. Pam, do a time check with you. I know you wanted to reserve a little bit of time at the end for some announcements.
Thank you, Kelly. I think that we have time for one more question. And when I look in the questions, I'd encourage you to address Don Hansen's questions.
Okay.
The other folks, we've had quite a few questions. We've tried to get to all of them, and now we're kind of getting into allowing a couple questions from people, but we haven't heard from Don.
Right. Don wants to know what you think about light rail to Bridgeport. Is that a game changer for the suburban market?
Eric?
I'm on the Citizens Advisory Committee for that. It comes right through the middle of our parks, and I think that there is going to be some very good things about it, and I think there's going to be some very bad things about it. I do not think that we are going at our end here that we are going to get. We're built and we're in good shape. We have good product. I don't think there's any increase in value for us. Now, if I could walk out the door and hop on light rail and be downtown in a short period of time and not have to deal with parking, that's fine. If it takes me 3 times, that's a different story. I think we are in general, we're supportive of it, but it does impact us. We lose a building out of it, and we're working right now to make sure that we don't lose parking for another building, because if we lose parking, we might as well lose the building if you can't access it. So it's I think that there's some areas where it will definitely be, have an opportunity to increase values. You also get concerned about equitable development, and we talked earlier about the homeless issue, but I think obviously we have affordable housing challenges are the next issue on that. So I think, and I do think they're addressing those things. So that's very positive. But it's the getting there is going to be difficult too in terms of construction time and the disruption that it will do to parking, etc.
Evan, that would be coming right by one of your buildings too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think in general we're supportive. Eric pointed out some challenges as well. We actually sold an office building whereby light rail was going to go right through it, so we would have lost that building as well. So there are implications, but in general, I think it's a neat concept, and we're supportive.
Yeah, I would add we own the Tiger Theater site, and we're designing there for a redevelopment eventually. That I think light rail is a huge enhancement for that. So there's definitely going to be some give and take. It's the old say, I got 1 foot in boiling water and 1 in ice water. Overall, I feel great.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much to both of you and to Kelly for moderating this discussion. I also want to give a shout out to all of our participants. You asked great questions. You really did. You got to kind of the heart of so many different issues, and I think you put these guys on the spot. Some of those were tough questions, and I think we got really reasonable, thoughtful answers. So thanks to the participants. A little inside baseball here. We always prepare questions, and Kelly did a great job of coming up with a list of questions just in case we didn't have any from the attendees. But man, we didn't need to go there at all. So we thank you for your active participation and allowing us to provide an opportunity for all of us to learn from one another. So thank you for that. I would like to ask Teresa if she could put up a list of the upcoming event. Well, once again, I'd like to thank our sponsors. And as you can see here, we've got our Forum Series sponsor, Legacy Health, and then also today's sponsors, CBRE, Gantry, PacTrust, Harsh Investment Properties, Felton Properties, Melvin Mark, and the Standard. So again, special thanks to you, and again, special thanks to NAIOP and to Kelly Ross for the partnership on bringing this information to you. So with that, what I'd like to remind you is that we have some upcoming events here. Teresa is just putting these on the slide. Remember that our forums are open to everybody, but our committee members are only open to members. So if you would like to join Westside Economic Alliance, please feel free to contact me. You can go to our website and learn about membership there. I also want to remind you that we send a survey out after every one of these events, and it's an electronic survey. It's really helpful to get your feedback, to think about what we're going to be doing at our next forum. So, but we do have our next forum scheduled. We've really developed a great relationship with Josh Lehner from the state of Oregon, an economist with the state of Oregon. He's going to be doing a presentation again on November 19th. This is our third presentation with Josh about the revenue forecast. And it really helps all of us to get that information early and to be able to think about what our plans are moving forward. So I appreciate the partnership there, and we look forward to that forum on November 19th. Again, remember to fill out your surveys, and one more time, a big shout out and a big thank you to Kelly, to Evan, and to Eric. You have my appreciation here. We are ending just a tad early, and that way we can allow you the time to get up, stretch before your next Zoom meeting at 9 o'clock. So I look forward to seeing you on the 19th. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.